When I think of movies or books, those people on Book Talk can understand me. It gives you some sort of inspiration, right? But for most people, the inspiration becomes the wrong thing. And for today's case, that was exactly it. Because today's case evolves around something really delicate that we'd never talk about in the African continent. And it will make sense along the way. But today's focus is about a special case that happened back in 2021, which was like, I don't know, what was that? 3, 4, 5 years ago? I lost track of time at this point. But this case, back then, the victims were a family of 5. Let's just call them all a family, because 2 of them were technically not blood family, but family is who you choose, right? So this family was tragically murdered and their lives ended by somebody who you know. And when it comes to criminal law, I won't say that I'm a prosecutor or maybe a forensic analyst or something like that. But when it comes to law, right, we all know that there is a motive, and the motive has a drive, and the drive brings out the incentive as well. And for today's case, all of that falls into place with a little holes here and there. So today's case, we're talking about the Warunge Family Murders. So today's case, guys, I'm going to pack your bags because we are headed down to Africa, specifically Nairobi, Kenya. And I know you're wondering, oh my, what do you mean we're headed to Nairobi, Kenya? Nairobi is a fun place. It's a place full of Maasais and safaris, but what you guys don't know is that the African continent itself, leave alone East Africa, leave alone Kenya, the African continent as a whole, it has 55 countries. And in all these countries, I think South Africa is the only one who's open when it comes to their true crime, right? I know you can go all around there and then just check, and every single true crime story you'll hear is coming from South Africa. But for the rest of the continent, it's a delicate issue because nobody ever wants to talk about it. And for today's case specifically, it was so big, it made national news for the whole entire year, including the next year, because what happened on this case was so tragic, so horrific, and the trial itself, what I can just say, it's unjust. So let me take you back to 2021. Let's go back. Just rewind. Where were you in 2021, January of 2021? I think by that time we were just healing from the whole pandemic thing, from the whole lockdown thing. Some of us hadn't adjusted. Some of us never even had jobs. Some of us were still in school, didn't know if we'd graduate or not. But for the Warunges, their lives was just normal. There are these kinds of people where you're rich but not wealthy, right? You understand that? Where you have money, enough money to be comfortable on your own as a family. So even if COVID struck, you guys were okay. So for Nick and Anne, which are the parents of this situation, they had normal lives. Anne was what I think I can call a therapist, which I'm not sure, but she dealt with things about mental health. The father, I can't really say what he did. I think you can Google online and try and find out. I tried, but I couldn't. But this was a family where people were okay financially. I can't say they were well off. I've met people who were wealthier than they were. But the Warunges, what makes them special is that for the whole extended family, which includes brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, aunts, all of this, they lived within the same mile radius. So they weren't like far off where you can say, oh, my aunt is in Uganda. Oh, my aunt is in Tanzania and my other cousins are in, I don't know, South Africa. No, they lived in the same metropolitan area, in the same district, in the same compound. Like they never had a difference. You could knock at your neighbor's door and there's a very fat chance that that's your uncle. You can knock down the street and realize, oh wait, that's my cousin. But the funny thing is that these were family members who were really distant. If you read online, I don't know, let me just say speculation, because I can't say with this, just take it with a grain of salt. There are the kind of families where, yes, we are family, but we don't know each other. And that is actually something you should keep in mind. It's a family where they never checked on each other, right? Just picture this, the whole family is out. They have 3 kids one is older, one is younger, a boy. They have 2 girls. Actually, that's 4 kids. They have 2 girls who have headed out to boarding school. And then they have a nephew. His name is Max. He was adopted into the family. I don't know the background of Max very well, but his full name is Max, so we'll just call him Max. So he was adopted into the family, and now they consider him like the younger kid, like just part of the bros, right? So they have an older kid, Lawrence, They have Max, the adopted one. They have Chris, one of their younger biological sons, and then their 2 youngest daughters whose name are not disclosed anywhere. So we'll just call them Child A and Child B because they're irrelevant to this part of the story. So among them as well was also a foreman who lived within the compound but outside the property. So the property, imagine this, you have one vast property, you have the main house, you have a big wall, it has this huge gate, and then it has electric fences. So these guys had security. And then outside the fence, just literally in the same compound, they have some other things working. So they have construction workers. I don't know what house they were building, but they were building a house. So the oldest son lived among the construction workers. I believed he lived in the same house with the foreman. Keep that in mind. So on this particular day, everything is going on just fine. Nobody has a care in the world. They just think this is a normal day. COVID is out. People are allowed to go out. Some people are still trying to figure out what's going on. The Warunges are just having a normal family. I'm sure even the mom had meals planned for the day. You know, African homes, we do that. When you leave the home in the morning, you already know what you're cooking for the guys in the evening. Even if you're working a 9 to 5, it happens. That's what we do. So the parents are just off to work. Everything is fine. The kids are okay. Lawrence hasn't said a word. And everything starts turning when night comes. So according to police reports, all these murders started at around 8 p.m. in the evening. So we don't know what happened during the day. We don't know whatever quarrel may have happened during the day. All we know is that the events started at 8 p.m. So at 8 p.m., here comes the foreman. According to police reports, the way he was murdered, it just happens that whoever murdered him caught him by surprise, and there was a high chance he knew this person. So let's just make up a story. This is what I think happened. The foreman comes because they live in the same home. Pa, 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 pa. There goes the door. There's no doorbell, so we knock on the door like normal peasants, right? We knock on the door, and the door opens. The foreman is like, "Oh, it's you, Lawrence. Come in." So they're like, "Oh, we live here together." They perhaps just sat, had stories, and then Lawrence decided, "Oh, by the way, let's just sit, chit chat, right? Just talk as bros, because what will we do in a normal night? We won't just look at each other, right?" So they're talking, and then during this whole scene of relaxation, somehow, Lawrence pulls out a metal bat, bashes this guy on the head, and then slits his throat. According to the police report, the original bash on the head is what killed the foreman. His name was James, God rest his soul. And you know, there is a way, I don't know how forensics work. I'm not a coroner. You can just Google. Don't land on the FBI page, please. But if you bash somebody's head in the right angle, you could actually kill the person. Somewhere, just the same way you can slit someone's throat, get the right artery, and then they're gone. So this is what happened in this situation. The original bash is what killed him, but Lawrence didn't know, so he just slashed his throat as well. And you might think, oh, I'm going to run, right? If you're in his shoes, what would you have done? Perhaps this was accidental, perhaps it was intentional. You would have run, right? But for Lawrence, he sat and waited. This was 8 p.m. He sat and sat and sat all the way to 8:30. That's 30 minutes of a body going cold at your feet. You just sat there. I just read this and I was like, what was going on inside his head? Because I couldn't stomach it, by the way. It was so chill and nonchalant about it when he was talking about it. So, according to Lawrence, because this whole thing is what Lawrence said in his confession, keep that in mind, he confessed. Lawrence apparently waited until 8:30. Walked out of that house the moment he heard the door of the main gate opening. And that was his father. So his father never drove back home. He came with an Uber or a taxi, I don't know, or a Bolt. He just got dropped off. So he got dropped off, entered the main gate, he went into his house, just like a normal dad. You can imagine your evening, it's 8:30, you have younger kids in the house, you're already seeing, the kids are going to tell you, Daddy, what did you bring for me? And then your wife is going to be like, ooh, babe, how was your day? I've got some food brewing. You want to eat or something, Because they weren't like those kinds of families where we want to eat together. They were a loving family, according to reports of people. So the moment Lawrence heard the gate open, he grabbed the foreman's keys because he had them. The foreman lived in the property, so why wouldn't he have the keys to the main house? In case anything happened, he would have walked in, helped, all that. But in this case, well, he's dead, right? So how would he help the family? So Lawrence grabbed the keys, went to the main gate, locked it, and then scaled the wall. The moment he scaled the wall, he got electrocuted with the wires, but he never minded. He was adrenaline. Adrenaline was just fueling him. So he never even realized he got shocked, When you get shocked with an electric fence, I know you'll fall down like a cow. You'll just fall. But he kept on moving. He has locked the main gate, meaning his whole family is trapped. And they don't know. They're oblivious about it. So I don't know the layout of the house, but apparently he went back to the kitchen. And you can imagine this as a parent, leave alone as a mom or even just somebody in the kitchen. And your house is fortified, right? You're safe and you hear a voice. What would you do? And you just hear some rustling. For me personally, I would honestly have thought it is a cat. So I would have walked out and tried and see, what's those papers rustling? Or maybe my brain would have gone, maybe it's the foreman. He needed something and perhaps he's tried to call, or maybe he couldn't call. Maybe that's him. And that's what the mother did. She had some rustling, went outside, and boom, that's when she was also struck with a metal bat. And as she was trying to fight off the attacker, she got slashed on the throat as well. Because according to the ME's report, she had slashes or bruises on her arms, so meaning she tried to fight him off. And you can imagine, this is your own kid. You're trying to fight off your own kid and he ends up slashing your own throat. And she's lying there. That's count of 2 people dead. And there's this kid now, Max. He didn't know that this whole thing was happening. Oh, poor Max. I can imagine what was going through his head. Perhaps he thought that, let me rush to the kitchen, see if mom is done cooking. Because you're a kid, it's 9 p.m, you haven't eaten yet, the food is still cooking. What would you do? Run to the kitchen, right? So he never knew whatever was happening, and he ran to the kitchen, met his older adopted brother, same fashion, bang to the head, throat slashed. And during this whole ruckus, I think the younger kid is the one who caused all this ruckus, or the actual action of the body falling down of the mother and the kid is what caused the commotion, but the father heard everything. He came down running from upstairs. Now you can imagine, put yourself in the father's shoes. You're hearing a ruckus in your own home and you came home in peace. What would your brain have thought? It's a robber, right? You would have thought somebody managed to enter into the home, we're getting robbed, and that's why the ruckus is happening downstairs. So he's running from the master bedroom. I'm sure he was ready to confront this person, but the moment he got down to the entrance of the kitchen, that's when he met his oldest son holding a knife, bloody, and 2 dead bodies on the floor. And his flight or fight kicked in and he just ran. I don't know if he managed to tell Chris to hide, which was his youngest son, because the kid was hiding under the bed at the time. But the dad ran, scaled over the balcony of his master bedroom, dropped. He never broke anything, thankfully, but he ran towards the gate. The father, remember, the gate is closed. He doesn't know this. So he's running towards the gate. I know in his mind, maybe he was thinking, if I can only make it out of this gate alive, even if I'm bashed up, I can get help. Because like I told you guys to keep in mind that the whole family lived in the same compound. They lived in the same mile radius. So if he managed to get to a neighbor's home, there's a probable chance this is a family member, he would have helped. If he only managed to get to the foreman, he would have helped. But he never knew that. The rest of the family didn't know what was happening and the foreman was already dead. So he's rushing to the gate, trying to get it open, and he's realizing, oh wait, the gate is locked, I can't get it open. And the moment he's about to give up, bang on his head and he's down but still alive. And Lawrence gets on top of him now. Now you can imagine, you're lying down, your son is on top of you, and you're realizing he's seeing red. You can't even beg him, you can't even say anything. And before he can get a single word out of his mouth, Lawrence does the unthinkable. He actually grabs the knife, and instead of slitting his own father's throat, he stabs his own father 30 times, over and over and over again, because according to the MEs, this was considered an overkill. Once or twice, sure, but 30? 1, 2, 3, all the way to 30? That's overkill. And I think whatever was going on in Lawrence's mind was, if I can take out my own father, it would be easier now to take out the younger kid because the kid is scared. You'll find out that most murderers think the same. If you've watched true crime documentaries, even Ted Bundy or even Dahmer or somebody like that, you'll realize they say they take out the strongest one first so that the weaker one becomes even more weak. Because if you see, oh, my savior is dead, who will save me? Now I'll give up and I'll also die too. So I'm sure that's what was going on in Lawrence's mind. And he goes back into the house, goes to the bedroom, finds his youngest brother, Chris, Christian. That was his full name, but we'll just call him Chris. And he was hiding under the bed. And according to Lawrence, this was the words of Lawrence. I swear to God, this boy, just hearing his words made me mad, because he said that my brother begged me not to kill him and I still did it. I hit him over the head, slashed his throat. No mercy. And this was, mind you, the confessions of Lawrence. And after he had done this, you might think, once again, oh, he'll run away, right? No, he actually stayed home, went in the kitchen, ate the food that the mother cooked, went to the master bedroom, slept in the parents' bed, and then at 4 a.m., he was out to go and dispose of his weapons and all the evidence. You can imagine that. You've murdered people and you're going to stay in the same house, not even shocked, not even concerned that you're going to get caught, because in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, who will come knocking at the door at 4 a.m., right? So he stayed, went to the kitchen, ate the meal that the mother cooked. You have left your mother dead there, and then you go and then pick up the food and eat. And then you go, you watch a movie. The rest of the family is dead as well. Go to the master bedroom and sleep. And then wake up at 4 a.m. I'm sure that, I don't want to say bad words, but I'm sure he had an alarm for 4 a.m. in the morning, because how do you just wake up at 4 a.m.? You're not like, I don't even know how to describe you. You're not a biological alarm clock where you can just wake up at 4 a.m. You had an alarm clock. I know, I'm looking at you, Lawrence. I know you had an alarm clock. So he woke up, grabbed the knife, grabbed his bloody clothes, grabbed the parents' phone, put him in the bag, walked out at 4 a.m. and then he went all the way to Maimahio. For those who are not from Kenya, moving from Kiambu to Maimahio is a distance. It's a distance, and there's a really, really high chance he went by public transport. So he went there, burnt everything, then came from Maimahio, went all the way again to Lower Kabete. This is movements. Mind you, this is movements. How can I describe this to you? It's like moving from point A, taking like 2-3 hours to point B, taking another 1 hour to burn everything, then grabbing everything again, going to another 2 hours to point C. You're seeing that? You're trying to connect that. And that's exactly what he did. And he stayed there at least for 4 days, according to reports, until the moment he turned on his phone. And that's how he got caught. Because at this point, they'd already realized, oh, where is the oldest son? And that's how he was caught. But you might be wondering, yes, he was caught, but how did they discover the bodies? This was now the horrible part. Because at 8 p.m. the previous night, remember, that's when the foreman was killed. When did Lawrence leave the house of the foreman? At 8:30 and scaled the wall. So the time he's killing everybody inside, at 9 p.m., a friend of the foreman went back home to the foreman. I think he was living alongside them, because Lawrence and the foreman lived in the same house. And that's when he discovered the body at 9 p.m. at night. So that's just 1 hour. The body was killed at probably 8. Lawrence had left here 30 minutes ago, so his head wasn't even clocking. Oh, where's Lawrence? So he called the local police chief, and then they tried calling the Warunges' home. Nobody was picking up. So there's a really high chance that the Warunges were dead at this time when it was 9 p.m. So the chief is calling, and then they realized, oh, we can't reach them. So we'll try back again in the morning. I don't know why they decided that. Because if I was the police chief, or even the just area chief myself, and somebody was murdered next to another neighbor and they weren't picking up, I would try to get that door open. Why aren't they picking up? And they normally pick up, right? So you can imagine the first body of the foreman was discovered at 9 p.m. Nobody realized that the Warunges were dead until 10 a.m. the next morning. 10 a.m. Lawrence was gone by 4 a.m. So you can imagine 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 6 hours. They could have caught Lawrence a long time ago, but they didn't. So they just walked in, and then they found the bodies all the way from the kitchen to the gate to upstairs, and everybody was just massacred. And it was just a gruesome sight. So the day Lawrence was caught, right? He was caught because of his phone. He was caught in an Andrew Tate way. You remember how Andrew Tate was caught because of a pizza? Right. He was caught because of his phone number. He just turned it on. And he never actually threw a fuss. He confessed to everything. Gave us this whole story that, yeah, I murdered them, and let me take you to where I burnt them, the clothes and the bloody things and their phones. They drove all the way to Maimahio, and then they got everything, even showed them, oh, this is the place we burnt them. This is their place. And then he was taken to a police station. Now when they're doing this investigation, it took months because the crime scene was preserved. For once, I'll give them congrats, because it's rare, especially in our African continent, to realize that, oh, this is something we can preserve a crime. We can just preserve this crime and then we can see this crime scene. What can we pick up in the coming months? Doesn't happen. Most of the times it's just a clean slate. We do this, we close it, and it's done. But for this case, they realized that something bigger might have happened, so they preserved the scene for a whole month. So you can imagine a whole month of just gathering evidence. So there was evidence everywhere. And at first, when they arrested Lawrence, they also arrested his girlfriend at the time. And this is because they thought that it was a cahoots thing. They had this thing planned, and they thought that Lawrence had told her everything. And according to the girlfriend at the time, and this is what got her released, she said that Lawrence was just paranoid. She never thought anything about it. She just said that, oh, Lawrence has been telling me that my mom is planning to kill me. Now, this is the words of Lawrence, that, oh, my mom is planning to kill me, and she just thought that this was just propaganda. And he told her that my life will change after today. That today being the night that he murdered everybody. So the girlfriend never thought about anything. She was put as a witness, and now she decided to testify against Lawrence. And they are gathering information. And of course, you bring in a therapist to verify that this person is fit to stand trial. That's the first time. Lawrence has already confessed. He was caught. He was not remorseful. He has confessed. They bring in a therapist, and the therapist says he is fit to stand trial. Keep that in mind. But on the day of the trial, Lawrence decides, oh, I plead not guilty. And then all of a sudden, he's not fit to stand trial. This is what I'm saying, guys. It never ended justly. Because how do you tell me this guy has confessed? This guy has showed you what he did. This guy has, even when worse comes to worse, he has decided to threaten the rest of his family. And he has said that if you release me, I'll murder my 2 other siblings because they were in school at that time. I couldn't get them. And I'll come for my uncles and aunts and everybody else in the Warunge family. And then you decide that, yes, he's fit to stand trial. But the day of the trial itself, all of a sudden he's insane. And you can't just convict this person. This is why sometimes, guys, I think the justice system is flawed. Because why? Just why? You can't pull a joke on us. This is not Arkham, right? This is not Arkham. You can't pull us out and in and out and in again. Nuh-uh. We don't have a Batman to try and save us, right? But no, the justice system decided, oh yeah, Lawrence is unfit and now he's free out there somewhere, probably planning his next murder. But guys, condolences to the family, because the Warunges lost 5 people, including the foreman. Family is who you choose, right? So technically, for you to allow the foreman to live there, he was family. And they lost 5 people, including 2 kids who had their whole life ahead of them, just because a 22-year-old was paranoid. But I'm not saying it's Lawrence's fault, because it was his fault to a degree. But some people are also saying it was the parents' fault, because the mother apparently dealt with some things about mental health. Like I said, I couldn't justify that she is a therapist, but she dealt with cases on mental health, and she couldn't realize that the son was depressed, the son was going through something. Probably the son had a mental illness they couldn't figure out first, because it wasn't the first time that Lawrence went to the cops and claimed that, oh, my mother is trying to kill me. Oh, my father is an abusive drunkard. He hits me every time. Oh, my family doesn't care about me. And then to make things worse, they kicked him out of the main house, let him live as a construction worker on the opposite plot of land. So technically he was secluded. And then you can imagine that they are loving these younger kids, and then they're adopting a new one. So maybe in Lawrence's mind, he was like, oh, you threw me out. Maybe you didn't like me. And then you're adopting this one, and then you're loving my younger brother. Probably that's why he killed the father and the younger brother Chris in a much gruesome way than he did the parents, which is Anne, the mother, and Max. But I don't understand why he decided to kill the foreman. Because he could have gotten in, honestly, he could have just gotten in. Or maybe why did he decide not to kill the father alone and just decided to end the whole bloodline? We'll never get it. But you'll never get anything psychologically that happens to a killer, right? But guys, you can just Google, just check out the story, the Warunge family. You can just spell it out on the description. Check out the story. If you want to check the maps, you can check the maps as well. Because this story was insane. That's the only thing I can say. And the worst thing of all is that it was inspired by a movie, Killing Eve, which I haven't watched yet, and I have to watch it because of it. So until next time, guys, this was Mystery and Mayhem. You can check all our show notes on our website, or you can check our socials as well for our next story. If you have any other story, if you're a listener from Africa, or you have a friend from Africa and you want us to tackle that story, you can check us in and we can investigate about it and talk about it. But until next time, my name is Phyllis McKenzie, Safi Media, and this has been Mystery and Mayhem. Bye.